Welcome to this module that's part of the Supervisor Workplace Assessment and Teaching Training that is currently focusing on WBA for clinical supervisors. And this short series of recording is going to focus on how, as a clinical supervisor, you can develop emotional competency skills, both for yourself and your registrars in the workplace. And we're going to be looking at the whole range of how emotion drives behavior and how the impact and how we can mitigate that impact both on ourselves as clinical supervisors, on the registrars that we're working with, and also on the environments that we are in. So the origin of this particular little series, and this is actually a much more extensive work that I'm developing at the moment, comes from the question on how do we teach higher order qualities. So classically, medical curricula covers three large components, right? So we know there's knowledge, there's skills, and then they have this thing called attitudes and behaviors. So under skills, we're already including procedures, clinical reasoning, consultation skills, etc. So that's sort of the what of how to do things. But this attitudes and behaviors are quite a sort of fluffy term, and there's a whole lot of stuff that classically gets sort of thrown into that section. So under family medicine, for example, we would like our registrars to have particular qualities. And four of those qualities in the ARICH is things like agency, reliability, integrity, humility. There's a lot written about doctors needing to have compassion or empathy. We use the word bedside manner. Some people use the word socio-emotive skills. There's very huge bodies of work around emotional intelligence, emotional competence, emotional maturity, emotional regulation. And then, of course, there are things that will also fit sort of under this sort of fluffy attitudes and behaviors section, things like professionalism and leadership skills and cultural sensitivity. And what is very clear is that we do believe that these higher order skills are important. So there is actually vast amounts of little research looking at the advantages of doctors having, for example, better communication skills, having compassion, professionalism, the impact of good leadership, etc. And there's been very clear evidence that it's linked to better patient care, both for both the medical outcomes, but also obviously also for patient satisfaction. We work better in colleagues and teams if we have these higher skills. It reduces medical error. There's a reduced risk of burnout and mental health disorders, and generally you just have happier adults, happier doctors if they have some of these so-called higher order qualities. So the questions that come out of this, and as is asked in many different ways in many, many different systems, is like, but how do we develop these skills? Why do some people arrive very reliable and humble and generous and compassionate, and some not? And then the second question, of course, directly linked to that, well, can we teach it? Is this something that you can like create a module and put it in your undergraduate curriculum to create these higher order qualities in our doctors? And we don't know the answer. What we do know, though, is that when we are talking about higher order qualities, it's not about what you do, but how you do it. And so that's why the word behaviors have been added in there into the attitude section. Because what we are trying to do is we're trying to mitigate behavior. What we would like is constructive, productive behavior of our doctors, which includes being reliable, humble, generous, kind, honest, tolerant, professional. There's a whole list goes on. And what we don't want is destructive, counterproductive behaviors. So being unreliable, being critical, being aggressive, being insensitive, being dishonest, being intolerant, being avoidant. So the question then becomes in terms of, well, why do people behave badly in the first place? So we can apply that to clinical supervisors, we can apply that to registrars or patients. Why do we sometimes engage in these very counterproductive, horrible behaviors that just make our lives and everybody else's miserable? And therefore, as clinical supervisors, how can we help people to behave better? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be proposing a framework to help us understand this question. This is not a question that has been fully answered. It's a question that's still in process in research. I've focused on this particularly in my master's, trying to figure out what is the way in to help our young doctors develop these higher parts of themselves. And I'm going to be making a case for it over the next 6 tutorials, that emotional competence is actually one of the key things that we need if we want to be able to teach all of these higher order qualities. So thank you very much. You will see that there's actually a much more complete version already. It's still under development on what are we calling the Master Your Dragon Emotional Competence series. And the QR code is the one there on the right.